Shalom, Mark. Let's get started in just a moment. Shalom. Wonderful for joining Akim. Today's lesson is called the mark is coming, talking about the mark of the beast described in Revelations 13 and 16, which if you were paying attention and not being distracted by the Iran-Israel conflict that took place for over 12 days, you'd understand that these devils in the background were pushing forward a lot of legislation, not only here in America, but also around the world, over in Europe and China, to bring forward the digital currency, which will eventually lead to the mark of the beast. But before we get into that, let's go and give all honor and glory and praises to Yahawah, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, BAHASHAM, QADASH, Bracket the YAHAWAH, Bracket the YAHAWASHI, Bracket the YAHAWAH, Bracket the YAHAWASHI, Bracket the YAHAWAH, Bracket the YAHAWASHI, BAHASHAM, QADASH. Double honors my teachers, the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect, who are the house of David reborn again in this generation. And shalom to the 130 Yasharallah, who today are known as the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, who before losing our true heritage, we were known as, and still are, the true Hebrew Israelites of the Holy Bible. So, like I said, today's lesson is going to be talking about the mark of the beast, which is one of the final tests that us Israelites, and really everybody on the world, is going to have to take before the end comes. But before we get into that part, let's go and focus on what is the mark of the beast. Let's go and read real quick the scripture where you can find the mark of the beast. That's found in Revelations 13 and 16. It says, "And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom, let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Okay, so that is where this prophecy comes from, that at the end days, in the end time, that there's going to come a particular mark that all the world is going to be offered, and that you're going to need to have, to basically operate within society. And if you don't have it, it's going to eventually lead to your ostracization out of society, and ultimately your death and beheading for not taking that mark of the beast. Now, that being said, when you get into that scripture and it says he, what that he is referring to is not one particular man, but it's referring to a group of people, a nation of people. That nation would be the nation of Edom. And Edom today, we would refer to them as so-called Caucasian or so-called Israeli people. Because again, those two people are really just one group of people known as the Edomites, okay? Who is the nation of Edom, who descend from the man known as Esau, who you could read about in Genesis 25 and 25. He was Jacob's evil twin brother, okay? Now, and also he was Cain in the reincarnation. Now, that being said, why is it that Esau, right, the Caucasian and Israelis, why are they doing this? Why do they even have the ability? Well, you see, when you read the Bible, you find out that between Jacob and Esau, that one blessing was given to Jacob, that's us Negro, Latino, Native Americans, and all those whose father's lineage goes back to that bloodline. And then there was another blessing given to the Edomites, Esau and his descendants. That would be the so-called Caucasian and Israelis around the world. Now, that blessing that was given to Esau was the blessing that he would basically rule at the end days, and that he would rule by his sword, which means basically his weaponry, and that ultimately he would live off the fatness of the earth. Basically, he'd have the best of the best, right? And that's what we're currently living through right now. And again, if you understand the Bible narrative in its proper context, you understand that the Israelites, the Negro, Latino, Native Americans, that we have to be, that we were put through captivity, through underneath all the other heathen nations that are upon the face of the earth. That would make 17 nations that we would have to be under captivity. So again, when you read Genesis 10, it talks about the 13 nations that originally came, and then ultimately, out of those 13 nations, there was added four additional nations that came after Genesis 10. That would be the Moabites, the so-called Chinese, the Ammonites, the so-called Japanese, the Ishmaelites, the so-called Arabs, the Edomites, and then which are the Caucasian and Israelis, and then the Israelites who came out of Jacob, who would be the Negro, Latino, Native Americans. So it's lucky, the 5 additional nations. Okay, so that being said, now that we've gone through history and we've gone through everything that we've respectively have gone through, that being us being conquered, destroyed, losing our heritage, and then now in a state of captivity underneath our captors, right? And with new names and new identities, right? Now we're currently living under the last captivity, or should I say the last heathen rulership of these heathen nations, that being the nation of Edom, right? Which is why they have this power to mandate that you take that biometric RFID implantable chip, because that's ultimately what the mark of the beast is. Okay, today's lesson isn't going to be about what is the mark of the beast, because we already know, if you're studied and you're paying attention, it's very obvious that the mark of the beast is the implantable RFID chip, or the brain chip, which these devils are going to load up your new digital ID, your social credit score, your digital money, and basically everything that they could ID you with is going to go onto that chip. Okay, and one other just thing about that mark, the Bible tells you that there's a law when it comes to slavery. Okay, when in the Bible, right? Because again, in the Bible there's laws for slavery, but again, when I say slavery, I'm not talking about Esau's wicked slavery, which is what he did to the Latinos, Negroes, and Native Americans, right? Where he basically, beat the shit out of us. He made us lose our heritage, and he was just wicked with us, right? And where he would rape the men, rape the women, right? Even the children, and he would do all these ungodly things to these people under his captivity. Hey, Shalom Makiyam to water for joining. So the difference between that form of wicked slavery and the slavery described in the Bible, is basically indentured servitude. Okay, where you bring somebody into your household to be an assistant there within your premises. Okay, and there were certain laws that regulated the proper usage and handling of these situations, right? Not to be overzealous, not to be overly wicked, right? In fact, it tells you not to be wicked, right? And that if you do happen to strike your servants to a point where they would lose a tooth, for example, you would have to let them go. Well, another one of these laws is that after the 7 year period, which was the max that you would keep a slave in your captivity or in your possession, until you would, let's say, renegotiate the contract. After those 7 years, you were to let your servants go, and scot-free. But then you'd also have to set them up. You couldn't just be like, all right, bye, take care, have a nice life. No, you'd have to give them, if they were an Israelite, you'd have to then give them a portion of your goods, so that way they could then be good in their own situation. Now, one stipulation of this law is that if a slave wanted to leave, but let's say he had a wife or a child, that wife and child did not belong to the slave, but it belonged to the master. So hence, a lot of these slaves would want to stay with their master, for the ongoing future, so that way he could continue to be with his wife, continue to be with his children. But there was a stipulation that if a servant wanted to stay with his master, they would then have to perform a ritual, which would basically means to pierce your ear through with what's known as an awl, EUL, or is it AUL? I think it's EUL, but I may be wrong. But it basically looks like an ice pick. Okay, it's used for leather craft and to make holes in leather, so that way you could string rope through or string through it. Okay. Now that being said, that ritual or that act of piercing in through the skin, you know, is the act of you joining yourself spiritually to your master. So coming back to modern day, when you get that RFID implantable microchip in your body, it's not the chip itself that is wicked, but it's the act of what's behind it. That's the wickedness to it, right? That right there is the signification that you've now joined yourself spiritually onto your master forever. Okay, and that's what the Lord doesn't want you to do. Basically, bind yourself by an oath to your master. Okay, especially these Edomite masters, right? Who are wicked beyond all comparison, right? They are the wicked of the earth, described in Job 9:24, that the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. That's what Job was talking about, right? He was talking about these Edomites when they finally when it was their turn to rule the world, right? That's the vision that Job was foreseeing. Okay. So recently, let's read this real quick. This is Isaiah 10:1. Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and that write grievousness which they have prescribed. And that's what's been currently going on over these last couple of decades, is that these devils in power, these Edomites, and really all those other nations that are confederate with them, basically joining on to them, those being the other nations of the European Union, the EU, right? And really all the other nations that are not even part of NATO, right? Pretty much all the nations of the world have signed on to Esau's plan. Now, what do I mean by this? Because we have the EU nations and we have the BRICS nations, and on the surface, being pushed onto the general population, is that these two groups of nations are actually against themselves. But see, that's not the truth at all. You see, BRICS is simply the next form of world capitalism, or should I say world government, that is going to take over the EU NATO infrastructure. Okay, this is why everything is going towards the BRICS nations. Even England wants to join the BRICS nations, because that's going to be the new world order in that governance circle. Okay, this is why we're going to read these articles that talk about what these devils did during these last 12 days, or almost 2 weeks, that Iran and Israel and America got involved in a scuffle, which scared everybody and made us all think that we're on the verge of Armageddon, which we are, right? But we're not as close as what everybody in the world thinks, right? See, because again, the rest of the people in the world, they don't understand the prophecies to look for, right? But starting with our apostles, the elders, and all the other Akim out there, we understand that what are the last two prophecies that have to come to pass. One is that the mark of the beast has to be fully mandated, where you cannot interact in society without it. Okay, and then second, that World War III has to be full blown engaged. Okay, where basically all these nations are not just lobbying attacks, here and there, occasionally, but it has to be a full on war. Okay, that's what the Bible says. Now, that being said, recently, when all that stuff was going down with Iran and Israel, you had the U.S. government. They passed the Genius Act, and what the Genius Act did was basically to solidify a lot of the digital stable coin and digital coin or digital dollar infrastructure or laws that need to be in place for them to bring it forward, right? Also, we've seen the announcement from Robert F. Kennedy, who is the House Secretary, I believe. He basically came out and said that the government wants to have everybody within the next 4 years, that would be by 2029, have a wearable of some sort to track their health, to help them achieve a better, healthy lifestyle. Now, we're not ignorant to Satan's devices, so we understand what that is. That's actually them slowly pushing everybody towards having some sort of trackable technology upon them, which eventually is going to go within them. Okay, but and then besides those things that happened, you recently had, I think it was the EU last month, or maybe the month before that, came out and actually pushed the digital euro, right? The EU established a legal framework to have the digital euro be an actual thing. Okay, then what was it? 5 days ago or something like that. Then you had China come out and strengthen and solidify its digital yuan. Okay, and why is all these things happening? It's because these devils, they're all, even though they pretend to be on opposite sides. See, Russia and China, they're not the enemies. They're simply just playing the enemies on the stage, on the world stage. Okay, that's why they're sitting back and they're just there, not attacking or blasting the shit out of Israel or all these other nations when they easily can do it with the firepower that they have. See, because they've been controlled. And when you understand communism and how it comes from these Amalekites, the small hatters, the so-called Israelis, you understand that they've taken over Russia and China and all these other communist-leaning countries a long time ago, and simply they're now just players or actors in this in Edom's play. The Polynesians in the kingdom, they're Japhet. So the Polynesians, well, let me take that back. Every nation, out of every one of the 18 nations, is going to have a mixture of Edomites, Israelites, and then just themselves and all the other nations. Now, this ultimately breaks into three groups. You have the children of God, the children of men, and the children of the wicked one. Okay, and that's how it all breaks down. The children of God are the Israelite seed. The children of men are all the other 16, heathen nations. And then you got the wicked ones, which are the seed line of Esau. Now, for those Polynesians who have, let's say, a so-called white or Israeli father, they're really Edomites. And what's going to happen to them is they're going to get round up, and they're going to be taken into the work camps, and they're going to be put into captivity for 1,000 years, and then eventually they're going to meet the Edomites' end. Now, for those Israelites who are mixed in with the Polynesian bloodline, that people like the Rock, right? Dwayne Johnson, right? He's a perfect example of this, right? People like that, if they're chosen, they're going to be, they're going to be ruling in the kingdom. They're going to be ruling in the world, teaching the other nations about the laws of the Lord and basically how to live upon the world. They're going to be the new priests and rulers upon the face of the earth. Okay. Now, that being said, the Polynesians, Israelites, more likely are going to be over the Polynesian people. Now, as far as the Polynesian people themselves, what's going to happen to them? Well, it tells us in the Bible, again, if they're straight up Polynesian and their lineage goes all the way back to the Japhetic bloodline, that they come from, then ultimately they're going to receive a judgment just like all the other nations of the world, and their punishment is going to be according to their transgressions that they did upon the face of the earth, namely when it came to having the Israelites under their captivity, and really just how they did in the world. Now, when the prophecy came out about Japhet, saying that he would dwell in Judah's tents, meaning that they would be close onto us. So I don't think it's going to be a harsh judgment for the Polynesians en masse, right? They're definitely going to go into captivity for 1,000 years, just like the other nations are, right? All other heathen nations are going to go into captivity for 1,000 years. But this, like I said again, it's not going to be wicked captivity like what we see Esau did to the Negro, Latino, Native Americans. It's simply just going to be a job that you're going to be doing, either working the fields, doing, maintaining land, or doing whatever the Lord sees fit for that nation to do. And that's going to happen for about 1,000 years. And in those 1,000 years, those Japhetic Polynesians are going to learn the ways of the Bible. They're going to learn the ways of the Lord, and they're going to love it, right? They're going to love this righteous life, because one, the world is going to be turned back to righteousness, right? Hawaii, Fiji, all those beautiful islands are going to go back to their absolute beauty and paradise-like stature, right? They're no longer going to be exploited like they are now, and the Japhetic people, not only are they going to be living a better life underneath the rulership of the Israelites, and also God and or the Messiah YAHAWASHI and King David, but they're also going to be in better mental states, because they're going to ultimately know what's going on. They're going to know the truth, and ultimately that truth is going to set them free, just like it set us free. Okay, so that's what's going to happen to the Polynesians. Okay, so ultimately they're not going to be saved, as in they're not going to be set up as rulers in the next iteration of society that's going to be set up by the Messiah, but they are going to be within the kingdom, and at first they are going to have to toil and do that work which they're going to be, commanded to. But then after 1,000 years, they're going to be permitted to go back into their own lands and run their people, by their own laws and everything, according to what the scriptures say. Now we'll be around to make sure that everything goes good, making sure that nobody's eating pigs or cats or just doing wicked things, because again, that's just going to be the way of this new world that's going to come forward, right? It's going to be basically heaven on earth. Okay, and trust me, the Polynesians, along with all the other heathen nations out there, they're gonna love this type of this new world order, or should I say the true world order, because it's gonna literally be paradise upon the earth, right? The earth is gonna be turned back into Eden, which Eden ultimately means paradise. Okay, and again, when you consider that, we're gonna have out of this world technology. We're gonna have the technology to be able to no longer need any energy, right? We're gonna just have it at our fingertips. Things are going to be, sickness is going to go away, right? Want and starvation, war, all that stuff is going to go away. So again, it's going to be heaven upon earth, and the Polynesians, along with all the other heathen nations, are going to be able to partake in that and also benefit from that. But again, just like us Israelites, we had to go through certain hardships before we got there. The other nations are also going to go through certain hardships before they get into the into this new true world order. So back to this lesson. Let's go and read what took place over that time when the wars were going on over there in Iran and Israel, and what these Edomites and these Moabites try to do in the background, so that way nobody noticed. So the first thing that came down was with the U.S. government bringing forward that announcement about the wearables. It says, this is from ZDNet.com. It says, U.S. government wants health trackers for all. What it means for your health, privacy, and wallet. And I'm just going to read the introduction, but I'm going to jump down to the privacy aspect of it, okay? It says, U.S. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. wants Americans to start adopting health tracking devices. Kennedy told the House of Representatives this week that the health agency is planning one of the biggest advertising campaigns in its history to encourage Americans to use the wearables. So these devils are going to inundate everybody with just tons of propaganda. You're going to see all these videos, and you're going to see all these commercials, these magazine ads, and you're going to see all these celebrities coming out there showing their Fitbits, their Aura rings, and all this stuff. And they're going to start making a lot of new services. Uber is going to talk about just call for a ride on your wearable. You're going to have Target talk about you can have a pickup of your order. Just ring, tap your Aura ring. And there's going to be all these type of shit to try to get everybody into it. And the great crazy thing is when you go to your doctor, and you're going to be asked, would you like a wearable? Because it's going to start to become a health provide or an insurance covered device. Okay, so everybody's going to be is going to have the ability to have a wearable paid for by the government or through their insurance. Because again, these devils are serious about this. They're really bringing forward the mark of the beast, people. So continuing, it says, hold on, let me read this. Do you think there's ever foreigners play in Papua New Guinea, New Zealand, especially the indigenous people, and Mongolia or just heathen? Oh, Israelite foreigners, yeah. Revelations 7 says that there's going to be Israelites out of every nation. So what that means is that even if it's only just one Israelite, there's going to be Israelites coming out of one of every 197 nations that the UN recognizes today. There's going to be Israelites. So there's going to be Israelites coming out of the nations of the Israelis, Israelites coming out of the Papua New Guinea generations, and all this stuff, right? So again, there's going to be Israelites coming out of every nationality under the earth. So yeah, so there's going to be Israelites mostly under all that stuff. So we got these people that don't even know what's going on, putting their hands up, trying to either way. But yeah, so there's going to be Israelite foreigners out of every nation. Now here's the thing, those Israelite foreigners may not wake up. Okay, it tells you that only 1 out of every 3 Negro, Latino, Native Americans, and anybody whose father's lineage goes back to that bloodline, Israelites, are going to be saved from the coming destruction. That means 2 out of every 3 of the Negro, Latino, Native American, or the Israelites, are going to perish. And why is that? Well, that's because they were too defiled by this world and its doctrines and its ways of life, to where they didn't pay this information enough attention to where they got right, or they simply they didn't care about it, or they were distracted by the riches of this world, other people. They got offended by this truth, and that's it. But again, so that being said, there's going to be Israelites coming out of every nation. But again, a lot of it, that doesn't mean that if you're an Israelite in Papua New Guinea, and let's say that's it, and you're a Christian and practicing false Christian reality or Christian doctrine, that doesn't mean you're going to be saved. That means you're simply going to be an Israelite who was practicing idolatry, and you just happen to be a Papua New Guinean, and your ass is going to get destroyed. But again, if that Israelite who is in Papua New Guinea, who looks like a Papua New Guinean, who may have at one time practiced Christianity, has since left that and come to this truth, woke up to the doctrine that the apostles have been teaching, their elders have been teaching, we're teaching today, and they're calling upon the right name of God, Yahawah, and the right name of the Messiah, YAHAWASHI, then they may be part of the elect. They may be part of the 1/3 that gets saved. So again, that there is unfortunately something that we can't determine. Okay, but that's the general understanding of how the 1/3 is going to be saved out of it. Again, and at this point, it's all hypothetical. So again, we could go on ad nauseum and continue to speak of scenarios, but for the most part, take that understanding and run with it. Because again, you're going to find out that all the good people of the earth that have come back and have come to this truth and accept that God's name is Yahawah, that his son's name is YAHAWASHI, that the Israelites are, predominantly the Negro, Latino, Native Americans, and that there's Israelites scattered amongst all the other nations, and you get this understanding, that means that, you have a very good chance of being part of the elect. So, all right, so hopefully that answers your question, Og. So let's get back to this. So, back in the article, it says, U.S. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy wants Americans to start adopting health tracking devices. Kennedy told the House of Representatives this week that the health agency is planning one of the biggest advertising campaigns in its history to encourage Americans to use the wearables. My vision is that every American is wearing a wearable within 4 years, Kennedy said. He added that the wearables health technology is a key pillar to the Make America Healthy Again agenda. Health wearables include devices like continuous glucose monitors, CGMs, smart watches, smart rings, fitness bands. CGMs monitor a person's glucose levels throughout the day, detecting spikes and providing recommendations on what foods to eat and avoid. And we've all seen that, right? We all have that auntie, we all have that uncle that they have that white patch here, and they have it on for a week. That's what that GCM is, okay? Or the glucose monitoring system, okay? And it attaches to your phone and it shows you your blood level. So you see these devils, little by little, they're going to start to introduce these wearables, and then eventually what's going to happen is once they get everybody used to it, just like they got everybody used to these cell phones, and where nobody can put down their cell phones because they live on their cell phones. It's become like an external brain for a lot of people, and what's going to eventually happen is they're going to start to offer you a way to put those wearables inside of you. So let's continue. And actually, let's just skip down. It says, health wearables include, okay, actually I read that. Trackers like smartwatches, smart rings, and fitness bands typically monitor a person's vitals, including their heart rates, wrist and finger temperature, heart rate variability, sleep, and more. Those devices gather and collect a user's health data and include features that could notify users of injury in undiagnosed conditions. While the goal of these devices is to track, spot, and potentially prevent illness or strain, it's unclear whether Kennedy and Trump's Surgeon General nominee, Casey Means, who co-founded a CGM brand levels, have an ulterior motive in selling wearables like glucose trackers. And then I'm just going to skip down because it just talks about a lot of the shadiness of these glucose monitoring things, and how they basically have infiltrated the healthcare system, and they basically have made tons of money by getting everybody to adopt those. But let's get down to the privacy concerns, because that's what I wanted to read in this article. It says, privacy concerns. Data is an extremely valuable resource, and health data is gold. Data breaches and leaks already jeopardize the security of this data in doctors' offices and healthcare facilities. And the risk could increase if every American is given their data to a tech wearable. While these health tech brands follow HIPAA regulations, many of them are considered wellness brands, not medical brands. So their data practices and standards are different, meaning that they don't follow HIPAA medical regulations as far as sharing your data with other companies or third-party agencies, meaning Esau is going to have all your data. And remember, all this information is going to be used and tracked and aggregated by that Palantir AI monitoring system, which is going to make it easy for these Edomites to basically track everybody. And it says Alex Hammerstone, Advisory Solutions Director for an ethical hacking company, told the Huffington Post that infringed health data could impact a person's insurance rates and options. Another expert interviewed for the story suggests that the wearables bring about significant security issues. If put in the wrong hands, the data could be sold to advertisers or insurance companies inclined to raise rates for their least healthy customers. Collecting such vital data could also lead to the administration further surveilling and monitoring Americans. That's what I wanted. Let's read that again. It could lead to collecting such vital data could also lead to the administration further surveilling and monitoring Americans. That's it. That's literally the last. That's literally the last line in this article. Okay. So the thing is that these devils know what they're doing, right? They give you all these pseudo explanations, and they give you all these benefits, and they give you these quasi risky issues, and then they put in the truth at the very end, right where you're not even expecting it. Okay, and that's what we're dealing with, people, because again, these wearables ultimately they are going to be in the end of privacy, because again, they're not going to be disconnected from the internet. What's going to happen is ultimately they're going to be connected to you, the Wi-Fi, and they're always going to be monitoring your health, your movements, everything from when you're in the showers to when you're going to the restroom to when you're sleeping to when you're out in the mountains and you think that you're away from cellular service, but now with the Starlink satellites that have basically like a 99% coverage around the earth, your ass is never going to be not monitored. Okay, and that's what these devils want. This is why they set up SpaceX, and they slashed through all that red tape just so Elon Musk and SpaceX can launch all those satellites, which is a bunch of bullshit, right? SpaceX is simply a military arm vendor who they basically have given into the hands of civilians, so that way they get around certain constitutional regulatory restrictions. Okay, it's very clear that's what the government does now. When they need to get around certain regulations, they'll set up some civilian organization, some company, or they set up some person like Elon Musk or JD Vance, and then they'll use them in the private sector to then curtail regulations which were meant to protect the people and to restrain government. That's simply the way that these devils work. Because why? Well, because again, like it tells us in the Bible, right, that they are not in trouble like other men, right? And because they are the ones that make the laws, and they're the ones that skirt the laws. Okay, and they're not they don't get the same punishment as everybody else does for breaking these laws. Now that we read that, me see. Let's go and read what took place in this is something that not too many people know about that took place here in America. It's called the Genius Act, which got passed by the Congress. It says, why passing the Stablecoin Genius Act might not be so smart. It says, critics say enacting pro-crypto legislation will make the financial system less safe and less stable and further enrich Donald Trump. This is from the New Yorker. It says, last week, as much of the world focused on Iran and Israel, the crypto lobby was celebrating a huge victory in Washington. History is being made, Jeremy Allure, the founder of chief executive of Circle, a stablecoin platform, wrote on X shortly after the Senate voted through the Genius Act, a bill designed to facilitate the growth of the digital currency and to give it and other crypto aspects the stamp of legitimacy. Stablecoins mean basically all these digital currencies, okay, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, all these different Dogecoins, all that stuff, okay? Stablecoins, which are designed to retain a constant value of $1, make them much less volatile than regular cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoins. Oh, so Salaki, stablecoins, I think that the way they work is that it's a basket of digital currencies that get swapped in and out, so that way that one stable coin, it always stays to the dollar, like it says, right? But basically it's a more stable form of system. Basically it's going to be, people are saying it's going to be what the digital dollar is based off of. It says stable coins, which are designed to retain a constant value of $1, making them much less volatile than regular cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, and currently existing in a regulatory gray area in which regulators have treated some, but not all of them, as securities subject to securities laws. Although companies such as Tether and Circle created stablecoins that now have combined market cap of more than $250 billion worldwide, major banks and other traditional financial institutions largely stayed away from them. Put off by regulatory uncertainty and crypto association with illicit transactions, the Genius Act, which stands for Guiding and Establishing National Innovation for the U.S. Stablecoin Acts, may well change all this and bring crypto into the mainstream financial system. Let's read that again. And may well change all this and bring crypto into the mainstream financial system. There you go, Akim. This is how they take all these digital currencies and all the Bitcoins, the Dogecoins, the Ethereum, and they make it usable by the people. Also, hey, Tawada, it's beautiful seeing you all come out here too. Well, as far as where do digital currencies fit into like the mark of the beast and 15-minute city, it's simply just going to be the digital means of currency that the world is going to start using to interact with everybody. So your dollars, your yuan, your euros, your pesos, all these other currencies, paper currencies from all over the world, they're all going to be a thing of the past. And what's going to happen is everything is going to be a digitalized coin, okay? And it's not going to be like you're going to go over to China and be like, oh, I only got a digital dollar, right? And then they're going to be like, oh, well, you got to transfer your digital dollar for the digital yuan. No, it's not going to be like that. You're going to be able to interact as if it's just as if you're in America, just like if you were in China. But here's the thing, you're not going to be able to go to China physically, but you will be able to buy things. And again, that goes to those 15-minute cities where everybody, little by little, through generations, will just not leave their cities, because everything that they're going to need, from the things that they buy, the shopping centers that they go to the places of entertainment that they visit, to their jobs, are all going to be within their cities. Okay, so ultimately, you're not going to, the days where the average citizen is able to get on a plane and physically go to China is going to be over, at least through Esau's vision, okay? They don't want that anymore. This is why they're scaring the shit out of everybody with all these planes falling out of the sky, helicopters flying into commercial planes and all this type of stuff, right? Is because they are shutting down the old world and they're bringing forward the new world order, which is going to be a less traveled world, right? Only people who are going to be able to travel in those days are going to be the extremely wealthy, or should I say just the wealthy people who could afford the higher carbon tax. Because again, everybody will receive a certain allotted carbon credits, and that's pretty much it, right? So let's say you get 1,000 carbon credits a year, and let's say traveling to China and back again, that may take 600 carbon credits. So now you have 400 credits to eat and to travel, to buy, entertainment, right? To pay for your rent. And again, things like eating may cost you 1 carbon credit. So that gives you an idea of how soon you're going to start to be, or how soon people are going to be pigeonholed into doing certain things. They may not want to live in a 15-minute city, but then they're not going to be able to afford a $1 million house, right? They're going to basically have to relegate themselves to live in a mega apartment within the city, within these 15-minute cities, right? And again, the way they're going to pay for that rent, for their trips, for the food, is going to be through these digital currencies. And again, the digital currencies that they're going to be paying for, it's not going to be Doge, it's not going to be Bitcoin, even though you'll be able to take those currencies and transfer them into this new digital system, into the stablecoin system, which is going to be set up around the world. It's going to be, this is just going to be the new currency, and that's it, right? And that new currency, you ain't going to put it into a wallet, okay? You're not going to put it into a wallet and put it into your back pocket. You know, you're going to open it up and a bunch of coins are going to, no, none of that's going to happen. What's going to happen is you're going to have a phone, and then, or a wearable, or a ring, and those digital credits, those stable coins, that Bitcoin, that Dogecoin, is all going to be on an online account, okay? And then that online account, you'll be able to scan a QR code, just like the merchants over in India and China do, right? You go to the street merchants over there, and everybody has a Zelle QR code, and everybody has like what do they use over there? A 10-cent QR code, right? And you scan it. And in fact, you know, here's a little story. This last week at my job, you have fruit guys come by, right? And they don't come by in the little cars. He came by in this, minivan, and he opened up the back of his minivan, and in the minivan it was a bunch of just fruit. He had aguas frescas, he had all this stuff, right? And I went ahead and bought an agua fresca, and I asked him if he took cash, and he said no. He's all, we don't have cash. He's all, but just scan one of these QR codes, and one was Zelle, another one was the Cash App, and I was like, okay, I got, my bank account has Zelle, so let me go ahead and start using it. And I just Zelled them over money, and that reminded me of those videos you see of people over in China, over in India, and over all these other countries who have already adopted the digital currency, like Nigeria. And that's the way people are going to start to transact, because again, there's not going to be a physical wallet where you're going to put your money. It's all going to be in these wearables. It's going to be in that mark of the beast, which is going to be that implantable chip that they want to put inside of you. Hey, what's up, bro? So that's what the coming future is going to look like. Yeah. Con. So I got two questions here. One from the brother El Pablo. So regarding what companies should we look out for, we don't got to worry about that, Akim, because the thing is all these companies, they're all for the most part owned by these other heathens, right? Namely these Edomites. So it doesn't matter if it's BlackRock, or if it's Palantir, or it's Target, Walmart. It's all owned by these Edomites, okay? And the thing is that though you may, and I understand what you're trying to say, right? Because you want to try to, get out from underneath the shadow of Esau's behemoth machine, right? The beast system that's coming in. But the truth of the matter is we're not going to be able to, okay? Because let me clear this up for us, is that you're not going to be able to maneuver your way out from what's coming, okay? What is coming is going to hit everybody. It's going to hit Apostle Tahar, Apostle Ramla, Apostle Kabar. It's going to hit all the elders. It's going to hit me, you, and we're simply going to have to be at the mercy of these Edomites, and we're going to have the spiritual hedge of protection that the Most High is going to set up around us. Now, that being said, as far as what companies should we avoid? Well, the thing is don't think of it like that, because the thing is all these companies are all working together, okay? Not one, like you're not going to have, for example, Target, that they're going to be fighting against the system to not accept these coins, or you have companies like what's a company everybody like Chick-fil-A, right? Everybody thinks Chick-fil-A is a Christian company. Also, In-N-Out, they put the little scriptures on their cups and everything, and you think that they're gonna hide you in their freezers and hide you from the cops and stuff. That shit ain't gonna work at that. All these corporations that are ran by these Edomites and ran by people stuck in the world, they're gonna do whatever the government says that they got to do. Okay, now they may stall here and there a little bit, and they may try to not accept certain things, but they ain't gonna be any form of protection for us. So what that means is, it's not that we have to try to avoid certain companies, but that we have to be circumspect. We have to understand what we should and should not do. Like, for example, right, like the apostle said, right, when these new digital currencies come in, it's okay to start using them, but what you got to do is we got to recognize what is the line. Well, that line is when those devices want to get put into your hand. Okay, that's where we have to step back and not participate and go about a different routes. Now, what does that mean? That means that you're gonna have to, now at that point, then you will have to start to avoid certain companies, right? Like, for example, what's a company that I avoid now is McDonald's, right? And I started to avoid McDonald's back like in 2012 when I stopped when I found out how nasty of a food it was, how they found human DNA in it, and how, like, for example, just today I was reading an article about that their hamburger meat they track like 1,300 DNA strains within that the meat. So again, it's extremely unhealthy for you. So again, you obviously avoid McDonald's. Okay, so in that aspect, it's okay to stop using certain services. But again, you're not going to be able to save yourself, or from just stopping to use certain corporations. But again, it may behoove us to start to understand how, not the black markets, but how it works buying food off of farmers markets, off of local vendors. What I'm doing is I've moved out to the boonies, basically to the outskirts of the cities. That's where I live. And it's funny, I didn't realize it, but a lot of the elders within the camps, a lot of them live on the outer skirts of society. We don't live in the inner cities where you have massive amounts of craziness going on. That being said, on the outskirts of these cities, you tend to have more farmers. You tend to have more food stalls that you could partake in and you could participate in. And besides that, I love gardening and I love growing my own food. So those are things that you can start doing, right? So not necessarily, don't worry about what corporations to avoid. Just start looking to become more self-sufficient. Start looking towards the services and the companies who provide assistance for that, right? How do you start growing your own food? How do you separate yourself from the system? Because ultimately, that's what we're going to ultimately need to do. We're going to need to separate ourselves from the system. Now, I can tell you right now, a lot of people are losing their shit because the prices of going out to eat is becoming expensive. I do not go out to eat as much as other people. Most of my food I make at home, right? Me and my wife, we make that food, right? So we're not really affected by that type of stuff, okay? And the food that we buy, if you cook, you understand what I'm talking about. The food that you buy, when you go to these stores, you buy vegetables, you buy just regular meat, right? It's fairly cheap compared to the food that you would buy, at these fast food places, okay? So that's my question, or my answer to that question there. So that being said, exactly. As Zan Maximus said, the U.S. government is going to be the distributor, because again, so ultimately avoiding all these corporations, it's ultimately going to go to the government, and they're going to be the ones mandating it. So though they may get companies like Target or Walmart to be handing out these resources, it's still going to be the government who's going to be mandating it and organizing it. And as far as El Pablo asked about all those digital currencies and how they could fall into the wrong hands, Khan, exactly. Right now, the digital currency market with all these different digital coins, it's the Wild West. And the thing is if you're going to be getting involved in it, you have to really understand, what's behind it, the team that's behind it, because a lot of them are going to rug pull your ass and you're going to lose all that money. That being said, I myself don't really get too much into digital currency. Yeah, I have some of it, but mostly I prefer the actual valuable metals, silver, gold. Those are the things, because one, it's a tangible good. You hold on to it. You don't have to depend on some company, some team that says that they're going to be, out there to help you, and then all of a sudden they sell off their coins, and then they're gone, and they now rug pull dress. See, because again, right now this digital currency started back with when Satoshi Nakamoto, whatever the fuck his name was, but supposedly came out and created Bitcoin. That was simply set up there by the CIA to get the world interested in this technology, and that way they could hammer out all the little gremlins in the system before they bring it out forward, and they actually have live test subjects, and they have live examples to base the designing of this new digital currency system off of. So that being said, Akim, to get involved in those digital currencies, if that's what you want to do, only thing I could recommend is that you truly investigate these different coins, see who's behind it, and then just because really the only thing you could do is go off of their reputation, because again, a lot of these companies come from other people who have come from other digital coin teams, but really it's like gambling, right? You're going to take your chances, and again, if you want something to be more if you want something that's a bit more conservative, safe, you got to stick with just gold, silver, or you buy actual assets like properties, things like that. But again, it's digital currency. It's just, that's part of the risk, okay? So that being said, let's get back to the articles. And it says stable coins, which are designed to retain constant value of $1, making them much less volatile than regular cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin and Ethereum, currently exist in a regulatory gray area in which regulators have treated some, but not all of them, as securities subject to security laws. Although companies such as Tether and Circle created stablecoin that now have a combined market cap of more than $250 billion worldwide, major banks and other traditional financial institutions largely stayed away from them, put off by regulatory uncertainties and crypto associations with illicit transactions. The GENIUS Act, which stands for Guiding and Establishing National Innovation and U.S. Stablecoins Act, may well change all this and bring crypto into the mainstream financial system. It treats stablecoins as a means of payment rather than as securities, and it creates a set of rules for the issuer to follow under the oversight of state and federal regulators. The bill passed with support from 50 Republicans and 18 Democrats. Allaire said that the final passage of the act, which still has to go through the House of Representatives, will drive U.S. economic and national competitiveness for decades to come. The Republican Senator Bill Haggerty of Tennessee, who sponsored the bill, made similarly expensive claims, but to many public interest groups and to Senate Democrats who voted against the legislation, its progress through the Senate mainly illustrated the power of the crypto lobby, which now exercises enormous influences at both ends of Pennsylvania Avenue. The GENIUS Act is an important step, but it is just one of many actions that the crypto industry and its allies in the White House and Capitol Hill are taking to launch an uncontrolled experiment in unleashing crypto on the economy and the financial system. Mark Hayes, an associate director of crypto and fintech at Americans for Financial Reform, a Washington-based advocacy group, told me. And then it kind of just goes in and it gives just like more history about America and its history with cryptocurrency and how slowly we've been or America has been adopting laws to help bring cryptocurrencies into the mainstream use. Now, ultimately, what's going to happen is your dollar is going to turn into a digital dollar, and pretty much everybody's going to start using it. No, more likely, China's going to, well, oh, and as far as your question, Emmanuel Hernandez, yeah, of course there's going to be Israelites coming out of the Taiwanese. Again, Taiwanese are simply just Moabites, okay? And remember, in the Bible, Ruth, David's great-grandmother, she was a Moabite, okay? So the thing is that shows you right there, not saying that Moabites are going to be Israelites, but that shows you that us Israelites, we do have connections with the Moabite people, okay? So meaning that there's going to be a lot of Israelites within the Moabite nation, including Taiwan. That being said, let's go and read some news about Moab. Okay, it says this is from Reuters. It says China talks up digital yuan in push for multipolar currency system. Okay, so China, Moab in the Bible, is making moves to turn their currency into a digital currency. It says, come on. Shanghai, Beijing. The head of China's central bank pledged to expand the international use of the digital yuan, called for the development of multipolar global currency system, where several currencies dominate the world economy. China will establish an international operations center for the ECNY in Shanghai. People's Bank of China Governor Pan Gongsheng said on Wednesday at the Lujiazhi Forum, a high-profile gathering of local and foreign financial industries executives and regulators. The remarks came in the wake of renewed appetite for a global yuan, as international trade tensions sparked by U.S. tariff policies prompt investors to seek alternatives to dollar-based investments. At the same time, China is accelerating efforts to develop financial system independent of Western institutions, moves that there gain fresh impetus as shifting trade patterns and geopolitical realignment reshape the global economic landscape. Developing a multipolar international monetary system will help strengthen policy constraints on sovereign currency countries, enhance the resilience of the system, and better safeguard global financial stability, Pan said. Such a system would pave the way for some currencies to hold sway in their respective regions, lessening reliance on the dollar. Pan expects several key global currencies to coexist in mutual competition with checks and balances in place. Washington's aggressive and chaotic rollout of tariffs has shaken faith in the U.S. currency and other U.S. assets, prompting a broader shift by investors away from the U.S. dollar and towards Asian currencies and the euro. The eroding U.S. dollar appeals also comes amid rising global interest in cryptocurrencies, including stablecoins, a type of virtual currency that is backed by an asset and holds a stable price. Remember I was telling you, stable coins, it's a collection of other different coins put together, but they always make up a particular value. So you see right here, Moab is trying to make their own system to go against the new digital dollar, which they're going to come out with. It says the global yuan ambitions. We'll just read this and we'll be done. China has long harbored ambitions for a yuan to be a global currency similar to the euro or dollar and reflective of the importance of the world's second biggest economy. But that goal has been hampered by unwillingness to open the capital account. And while there's no sign of that changing, progress on other fronts where it has gained in places such as Russia and other trading partners stands to accelerate. So, like I said, these devils, let me just put this away, Akim. These devils, what they're doing is that they're making their moves and they're passing legislature, you know, while everybody's looking at things like Iran and Israel bombing each other. and they're passing all these other laws, so that way we can now accept digital currencies. That all these things are being set up, so that way when they do turn on the digital dollar or the digital yuan, which, like I said again, though they may be different currencies, they're all going to work simultaneously together. It's going to be a seamless integration, and you're going to be able to buy all over the world with a simple transaction. There's going to be no converting your money. Those countries, bro, like Thailand and Cambodia, a lot of them are mixtures of between Japhet, Moab, and Ammon. Okay, and the problem is there's so many mixtures that I myself haven't gone into them. But for example, a good example of this is Korea. Okay, Korea predominantly are Moabites, but they've been conquered by Ammonites, so-called Japanese. If you look at Kim Jong-il, he's a descendant of the Japanese, right? He says that he descends from the sun goddess, whatever. But they're basically the Japanese that took over the Moabite region of Korea, and they've now have rolled over it. So they're a mixture of those two people. But again, and the same thing when you go down into Thailand and you go down into Cambodia, those nations were Japhetic nations, right? The Japhet nations that didn't fully go out to the South Seas but stayed in those regions. Now Moab and Ammon would mix amongst them, and that's where you got that type of mixture of people. But again, if you want, you can go into them and you could see, if you find out, who they are specifically, please share and make a lesson and share the links. But for the most part, they're mixtures of between Ammon, Moab, and the Japhetic lines. All those people down there, okay? So that being said, let's go and get back into the scriptures, because as we just read, we just read about the legislation and the changes that happened during these past 12 days that Iran and Israel and America were fighting over there, right? And what happened? Did we hear about this in the news? Not at all. This wasn't even anywhere on the mainstream media. You had to go and look for this under financial news or seek it out yourself. Because why? Because they don't want the general public to be aware of this, that their world is changing, and that the money system that we all depend on is going to be changed. Now, why is that going to change? Well, because again, we're all moving towards the mark of the beast, where everything is a digital currency or digital system with the digital ID, digital currency, digital social credit system, everything digital, so that way eventually they can put all that information onto a chip and into your body, right? So let's go and read this. This is 2 Corinthians 2:11. Least Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. So you see, though you have China, you got Europe, you got Saudi Arabia, you got Israel, and you got all these different countries, all what appears to be different things. You'll notice that they're all going towards the same category, right? Basically, they're all going towards a digital system. Okay, be it that they're working on ways to expand a digital currency like China and basically make it more mainstream, or America trying to establish their digital currencies by setting up legal frameworks for it to be adopted. Or you got countries like Euro or the EU who are now basically pushing that digital currency through. All these are all being done because all the world in general, they've all come together and they're all in one consent, even though some of them are playing the bad guys, some are playing the good guys, some are playing the neutral roles. They're all playing the same game, and that is to bring forward the one world order, which is ultimately going to be this Luciferian ruled one world order where everybody's microchipped, everybody is basically done with Christianity, Zionism, and Islamism. See, that's right now why they're allowing these Amalekites over there in the land of Israel to go to crash out and be as evil as they want. And this is why over the last couple of decades they've allowed these Arabs to go crazy with their terrorism, the bombings, and this is why they've allowed them to fucking fill up New York City, right? And this is and what we're seeing too on the Christian side is you're seeing like people like Donald Trump and the MAGA movement, where they're bringing extreme Christian views. Because see, what's going to happen at the end of what Esau believes is going to happen is at the end of his little charades is that he's going to show the world how basically religion is a cancer upon the earth, which it is, because again, it's all man-made and it doesn't tell you what the Bible's talking about. They're going to show the world that all these are dangerous, and they're going to do away with Christianity, Judaism, or Zionism, should I say, and Islamism, okay? And they're going to bring forward a new world religion, which is that same religion you see Klaus Schwab, who, when he's wearing that fucking Darth Vader outfit, right? Basically, it goes back to Luciferianism. When you, I'm going to make a lesson, Lord willing, about that religion, but when you look into it, it's basically the old pagan Atlantis one world religion, okay? And that's what they're going to bring forward, and that's what they're ultimately going to have everybody follow. And what it is, it's a religion of science for the most part, okay? Science and reasoning, pure logic, okay? So there's no spiritual aspects to it. So again, these are all Satan's devices being set up to get us to go towards the future where the mark of the beast is a main part of living upon the face of the earth. But again, we're not ignorant to it, right? We see what these devils are doing, and this is why we're making lessons, right? This is why in these last 2 months you've been seeing a lot more videos about the mark of the beast being created. So next, let's go and get into this. This is Deuteronomy 28 and 52. And it says, and he shall besiege thee in all thy gates. So this, until thy high and fenced walls come down, wherein thou trustest throughout all thy land, and he shall besiege thee in all thy gates throughout all thy land, which Yahawah, BAHASHAM, thy God, hath given thee. So this right here is talking about our enemies, the Israelites' enemies, the Edomites, okay? And and the reason I bring that scripture out is because these enemies, they have a way to basically surround us in every aspect of our lives, not just physically at every one of our gates. This isn't talking about Esau is going to be at your front gate and your back gate and you're going to have a way to escape. No. What this is talking about is that every avenue that you think you have to escape out of this coming one world order system and the mark of the beast system, these devils are going to have that avenue cut off, okay? So that's why I was talking to this brother about, don't worry about trying to avoid certain companies. Just worry about getting your house in order and becoming more self-sufficient, because what's going to happen is they're going to get every company to comply. They're going to get every job to comply. They're going to get everything that you're trying to set up as a gate or some sort of way for you to sustain yourself in these evil times. These devils are going to find a way to basically get into that and basically infiltrate it and destroy it. Okay, just like a good example is, people thought that they were going to grow their own seeds and basically they'll make their own food and they won't have to worry about all these GMO or mRNA things. But what did Esau do? He went and bought the majority of fucking seeds in the world and is now selling almost every seed out on the market. It's all basically GMO'd. Okay, so that right there is an example of Esau attacking us at every one of our gates. So again, these devils, again, they're going to come at us every way possible. So again, this is why we ain't going to save ourselves. We have to appeal to the Lord. We have to trust upon him and make sure that he protects us. And how do you do that? Well, you do that by keeping these laws to the best of your ability, coming back and following the Lord's will. And what does that mean? That means simply just stop eating that pork, stop eating shrimp, stop celebrating birthdays, stop celebrating these pagan holidays. Call upon the right names of God. And if you're still going to church, please stop going to these churches, because they're destroying us. Okay? And ultimately what you want to do is you want to build up that spiritual protection, that spiritual hedge that the Lord builds around the Israelites who are doing the righteous works, which means trying to keep the laws to the best of their abilities. The ones who are obeying the Lord, not just believe in him. Okay? So keep that in mind. Man, today's it's a nice cool day, but it's dry. Okay. So let's read this. This is let's go to Isaiah. This is Isaiah 30. 31. Yeah, Isaiah 31. Woe unto them that go down to Egypt for help, and stay on horses and trust in chariots, because they are many, and in horsemen, because they are very strong. But they look not unto the holy ones of Israel, neither seek Yahawah, BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI. Yet he also is wise, and will bring evil, and will not call back his words, but will arise against the house of the evildoers, and against the help of them that work iniquity. Now the Egyptians are men and not God, and their horses flesh and not spirit. When Yahawah, BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI, shall stretch out his hand, both he that helpeth shall fall, and he that is helping shall fall down, and they all shall fail together. So again, there's not going to be any covering or any protection by aligning with these Edomites or aligning with the system. Yes, you could receive some benefits here and there by playing along and and being a good citizen and doing all stuff, which is fine. But you got to understand, for you to try to gain salvation, or try to stop what's coming, or try to avoid the judgment that's coming by siding with these Edomites, joining their team, you're going to ultimately be destroyed. And a perfect example of this is, look at all the unemployed women of our nations. Right now, like, one of the highest unemployment rates is amongst so-called black women and so-called Latina women, right? And why is that? Well, because you see, they trusted in the oppressor, right? They trusted in these Edomites and their promise to make them gods like us, right? Because just like back in the Garden of Eden, when the serpent, who was simply the progenitors of these Edomites, that same spirit that's on them today is the same spirit that was on that person who was referred to as the serpent. They ultimately, just like back, when they told Eve, they offered to make her like God, right? To make them like her, like gods, with a little g, and that little g means like men. Okay, so he was offering her to be her own savior, her own God, right? And that's exactly what happened with this whole feminism movement, right? It allowed these women to be their own providers, their own men. So they didn't need no man, right? What's that sign? I don't need no man. Well, these women who don't need no man, they're starting to find out now that they do need men, right? There's that viral video that's going around with that one chick. She just hit 40, and she's there crying in her car, talking about she did this whole awakening thing wrong, and now she's lost, and she doesn't know what to do, and she's a fucking 40-year-old woman, right? Now the thing is that's just the way that the system works, right? It sets up a system of arrested development for us Israelites, and really for all the people in the America, because they don't want you to grow up and become self-sufficient, right? And just like our women have fallen for Esau's tricks again, they're now finding out what it is to trust in Egypt, to trust in his strong chariots and in their systems. Right now, their world is crumbling, and they don't know what to do. Everything. Khan, exactly. The brother, Yahawahana, the Israelite, brought up a perfect point. Everything in this world is temporary, and we're going to ultimately have to go into that hobbit-like mode, right? We're like pilgrims, right? What does the Bible say? Be ye as pilgrim, which means don't try to establish your empire or your castles here. Don't try to build anything up here and expect to take it into the kingdom with you. Everything here is going to be destroyed, meaning that we got to ultimately all do what we have to do to survive. Meaning, if you want to set up your household, you want to set up your gardens, that's all fine and good, but don't expect that the Lord is going to save out the little plot of garden that you have so you can take it into the kingdom. No, all that shit is temporary, and what we all got to do is rely on the Lord, and to know that He's going to lead us in the right path, right? You could either do that and be rest assured that the Lord is going to be with us, and He's going to protect you, or what you could do is you could stress and you could worry about what if this, what if that, and that's the problem. See, you don't want to do that, because what's going to end up happening is you're going to drive yourself crazy, because there's going to be no way for us to know what these devils are going to do, right? Because again, these Edomites, they're coming at every one of our gates, meaning they're going to try to attack us in every manner possible, so that way we take that mark of the beast. So that way we don't have a place to go get food. We don't have a place to go, lay our heads down and stuff, without having to pay with a social credit system and stuff. Con, exactly. Carlos Maldonado brings out about the billionaire bunkers, man. They're right now preparing themselves. Right? You got Zuckerberg, Peter Thiel, and stuff. You got all these people. You got all these billionaires prepping for what they know is coming. And them prepping for their own self-salvation, they're also prepping this society to be this new control grid where they're basically in power for the rest of their known time. So these devils, they don't want to give up what the control that they got, because they know that their time is coming to an end. So hold on, let me get this battery. Okay. 55%. Should be good. I'm about to be finished. All right, so let's continue. Let's go to this. But yeah, so ultimately, it goes back to what I was saying, what the Ak was saying. Again, you cannot survive, or you cannot depend on materialistic goods here, or on this system of that Esau has set up to protect ourselves, because all this stuff is going to be wiped away. This is why you got to basically focus on the laws and the words of the Lord. This way you know how to spiritually prepare yourselves and to spiritually make yourself right, so that way when the Lord comes in with these spiritual judgments, again, we're all seeing all these people being put to death, all these people getting these accidents. It's because the thing is because they don't have that protection on them, and they got basically taken by all these wicked spirits that are out there bringing forward that judgment. Let's get to Proverbs 26 and 24. He that hateth dissembleth with his lips, and layeth up deceit in him. When he speaketh fair, believe him not, for there are 7 abominations in his heart, whose hatred is covered by deceit. His wickedness shall be showed before the whole congregation. Who diggeth the pit shall fall therein, and he that rolleth the stone will return upon him. So you see, right now, these devils like RFK and all these people that are running these the Edomite government and these tech companies that are making these wearables, though they bring out all these great advantages of it, like, hey, having wearables is gonna let you track your health and make you find undiagnosed symptoms you may have. And right now, watch, there's an event that took place. Jake, he was exercising, and his ass had a heart attack, right? But he didn't know he was having a heart attack, and his wearable, he had like an iPhone or the iWatch, whatever. He called the ambulance, and the ambulance came and they saved his ass. And they're gonna mark my words, they're gonna use this example all over the news once they start to come out, and they're gonna start showing people like, hey, look, you too may have a heart attack, especially with everybody taking those clot shots and shit. Okay, they're gonna make getting this mark of the beast so good, and they're gonna make the reasoning behind it so how can I put it, desirable, that you're gonna want it, because with it you're gonna be able to do all these things. Your favorite celebrities are gonna get it. Your favorite musicians are gonna get it. They're gonna be pushing it. It's gonna be offered to you for free by your hospital. You're gonna start getting government vouchers to get a free iPhone or Nike watch or whatever it is, and they're gonna make it seem like it's a benefit, like you are lucky to get it, right? Remember when they were bringing out those pot shots? They were like they're all, you better hurry up and get them before they run out. And they were always telling people like, oh, the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Indians, you guys are the most disadvantaged, and for equity's sake, you must be allowed to, those people must be allowed to get the shots first. These fucking devils, it's so obvious what they're doing when you understand what the true narrative of the world is, right? See, the thing is and that's how a lot of our people are gonna be taken advantage of, because they don't really know who we are as a people. They don't know who these Edomites are, how they are mortal enemies. They don't know that they're out here to still trying to get us, even though they pretend, to be our friends, to be on our sides, to want supposedly the best for us, right? Well, at the same time, they're fucking locking up our people for stealing a fucking candy bar, and they're giving their fucking devilish people fucking 10 months of community service for stealing billions in pension funds. You see, we're not the same people, man, and we're not operating under the same legal system. So you can't trust people like this, man, because again, this is the Bible says that we are going to be ruled over those that hate us, right? So next, let's go move on to this. This is Revelations 14 and 9, because ultimately the thing is a lot of people, they're gonna take that mark of the beast. They're gonna do these things that these Edomites want them to do, because they're not gonna be able to resist, right? And unfortunately, you got false teachers, or you got sellout teachers like YAHAWAH over at ISUPK, who said, I'm gonna take the mark of the beast, and you're gonna take the mark of the beast because you're gonna want to eat. Dude, these people have fucking missed the assignment. They don't understand the assignment. They don't understand that you have to reject the mark of the beast, or else you ain't gonna be fucking saved. Because what does the Bible say right here? This is Revelations 14 and 9. And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels, and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascendeth forever, or up forever and ever, and they have no rest day nor night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. Right? See, so again, there's no twisting words. There's no buts or ifs. If you take that mark of the beast, right, which we know is the implantable RFID chips that are going to go in your hand, or that Neuralink, or those brain chips that are going to go in your mind, that's going to hold those your digital identity. That's it. It's over for you. You're going to die along with the rest of these people who were not meant for salvation. The brother Adam Nana brings out Matthew 26 and 19. Lay not up for yourselves treasure upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, where thieves do not break through nor steal. Beautiful. Exactly, man. And this is why it's important that we all start doing this work. This is important why we are starting to turn back to the Lord and do that which the Lord has commanded us to do. Because what's happening is as we're learning these scriptures, we're putting them into our mind, right? We're gathering all this historic knowledge. We're gathering the knowledge to understand what pleases the Lord. All these things, what they're doing is they're building up these spiritual garments that the Bible refers to as, when it says, oh, there was a multitude that was all wearing white. That's those spiritual garments, and that's what we're doing now. And that right there is that treasure that we're gathering up. It tells us those in the last days, they shall gather up faith as a treasure. That's what we're doing. We are gathering up that treasure, so that way we could be part of the elect, part of the 1/3 that make it into kingdom without having to die. Because again, that is the ultimate prize, Akim, to get into the kingdom without having to die, to have all these memories, to have all, and besides to say that you were on the right side of history, which is the side of the Lord, right? To imagine that. Imagine waking up in the kingdom because you didn't make it, and finding out that you were on the wrong side, that you sided with these devils of this earth, and ultimately you had to pay for it, and now you're coming back, and now you're an Israelite. Of course you're going to wake up to everlasting shame, right? And everybody's going to know that the Beyoncés, the Jay-Z's, the Ricky Martins, the Bad Bunnies, and all these people, they all joined themselves onto the devil for momentary gain, right? But they did it at the expense of selling their people out and condemning their own souls. What is that going to be worth in the kingdom of heaven when all this is wiped away, when all this is is nothing to be even considered. Nobody's going to know about Michael Jordan in the kingdom. Nobody's going to talk about Michael Jackson's songs in the kingdom. Nobody's going to talk about all these worldly, accolades that have been gathered here, man. Nobody's going to fucking care that who won the gold medal in the fucking 500-meter dash and shit, man. That's all going to be wiped away. It's going to mean it's all for naught. So again, if you're over here, fighting to get certain accolades or goals or medals here, degrees, some sort of title here, it's all for nothing, because all that shit's going to be tried and destroyed. And like it tells you in scripture, all works shall be tried by the fire, meaning that all the things you may have done here, open up an orphanage, fed the home, all that shit's going to be burnt away. All the achievements, all your ribbons, all your city council, fucking city keys to the city, all going to be burnt up and melted away. And what's going to happen is your reputation of you not following the law, of basically going against this word and not siding with the Lord. That's what's going to survive. That is going to be the thing that follows you into the kingdom. And that's ultimately what we have to be aware of and make sure that we're striving for, right? Is the righteous goals. And that being said, let's go and get this. This is Revelations 20:3. It says, got it, man? There's a big old bump right there. You're good, you're good. If you want, you come in like this.
Yeah.
Perfect, man. There you go, you got it, bro. Hey, you know that we're the Israelites, right? That the Bible talks about us. That we're actually the people of the Bible, brother. And God's coming back for us. So like I was saying, let's go and get into Revelations 20:3. It says, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal up on him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years shall be fulfilled, and after that he shall be loosed a little season. Now I read that to tell you that right now we're living in that little season. See, these Edomites, they were locked up for 1,000 years in Europe. Okay, when they got sent up to the Caucasus Mountains, after they basically got shoved out of Rome in their rulership there in Rome, and they lost Rome to the Israelites that were there, right? Which is where your black Roman emperors come from, and ultimately the Byzantine Empire, the Holy Roman Empire, which eventually went north and became the France, Germany, Spain, Britain, right? All that were Israelites, and all that while with 1,000 years when the Byzantine Empire was being established, was being ran, these Edomites had fled up into the Caucasus Mountains, and they eventually came out as the Khazarians, who we know today as the Israelis, and they eventually came out as the Caucasians. Okay, they even called them the wild men, the Pickmen, right? And then eventually they took over Europe, and this is where they brought forward the Renaissance. But notice in what I read, right? It said that they should go out to deceive the nations no more until 1,000 years were over. Then they were going to be released for a little while. And then when that happened, when they were released for a little while, that's where we're currently living at. And what did they do when they were released? They started to deceive the nations again. And right now the whole world is in a state of deception. Everybody, is in a state where they believe that there is such thing as a white man and a black man and a yellow man and a red man, right? When people don't realize that we all have heretical names that go back to the people of the Bible, which are those 18 nations that we're never taught about, man. So, for example, for the brother Emmanuel, the Kazakhstan, those people, a lot of those are Japhetic and stuff, right? Because remember, Japhet, after getting kicked out of Europe during the times of the original Greeks, when the Macedonians went in and conquered, during what's known as the Greek Dark Ages, they fled east. And when they fled east, they basically dwelt in places like Tibet, Kazakhstan, all those places. Then eventually they got pushed out even further, and they went down into those islands like Thailand and the South Seas. So we're going to see in Kazakhstan, those places, it's going to be a mixture of a lot of Japhets or Japhetic people, which is why, for example, the Ashkenazi, right, which are a Japhetic line, the Edomites that came out of the Caucasus Mountains, the Israelis that we know them today, they started referring to themselves as the Khazarians. And what did the Khazarians do? They started to mix in with the warriors of Genghis Khan, who were the Kazakhstans and all those people, right? The people of the lower steppes, okay? And this is where they started to mix in with those people of the Ashkenazi bloodline. And what does Esau do? What's one of his main MOs? He takes on the identity of the women that he marries into, okay? And this is why, and I'm so pissed, man, because a long time ago I was finding birth records of these Khazarians, right? And it showed how a lot of them married into the Ashkenazi women, right? And a lot of these Ashkenazi women, they were like nobles. A lot of these Khazarians married into them, and this is where they got their Ashkenazi lineage from, or their identity from. But again, that wasn't the Edomites. It was the Japhetic people who had still dwelt in the land that we know today as Kazakhstan, lower Russia, northern or what is it? I'm sorry, southern Russia, and northern China around there, or western China, right? Where are those people called? The ones that are being persecuted, the Islamists, Uyghurians or whatever, or I forgot, Uyghurs, right? Those people, man. Well, a lot of those at that time, back then, around 700, 800, 600 AD, were the Japhetic people. But again, a lot of them moved down and stuff, or they moved up north, and they became taken into the Russian Federation, which is why when you look at the Russian people, a lot of them look like Eskimos, right? Because again, what they are, they're Japhetic people, okay? So that's who those people are. So the brother Adam Nana brings out Hebrews 2 and 3. How shall we escape if we neglect so great salvation, which at the first began to be spoken by the Lord, and was confirmed unto us by them that heard them? Beautiful, right? Exactly, man. See, because the gospel is the only salvation that we're going to get from the system, man. The Lord has arranged it so that way, that which is coming, the New World Order and Esau's agenda, is going to be so broad and so vast that you're not going to be able to escape it. That the only way to escape it is to have the Lord on your side, and then the ultimate escape is for Him to come and save us, right? Because the thing is the way that these Edomites are rolling, man, nobody's going to be saved from the coming judgment that these Edomites are going to bring onto the world. Either you're going to get down with this system, or you're going to lose your head, okay? Because they don't want anybody who is not for the system to prosper in the system or to be around. This is why they've already allotted the Negro, Latino, Native Americans to basically be executed, right? Hence the 500 million that they want to permit to live on the earth doesn't include us Israelites, or really the majority of the world population. These devils got to kill 7.5 billion people to accomplish their goals. Okay, so consider that. Okay, and that doesn't include you, doesn't include your family, your loved ones, your best friends, your best girl, all this stuff, right? It only includes them and their extended families and some other acceptable heathen nations who are going to be doing the work for them. Okay, so the brother Adam Nana brings out Luke 21 and 36. Watch ye therefore and pray always, that ye may be accounted worthy to escape all these things that shall come to pass, and to stand before the Son of Man. Exactly, man. This is why we have to always do this work. This is why we got to make these lessons, because these lessons, Akim, for the most part, they're like prayers that we're making to the Lord, right? And also we're edifying each other, right? You brothers are edifying me with the scriptures that you share, the information that you ask, right? In the information that I got to go into to learn, so I can teach you, Akim. I myself get edified in that, right? So what does the scripture say? Iron sharpeneth iron, and that's what we're doing, right? Because why are we doing this? Because we want to be found worthy enough to stand in front of the Lord and to be saved and to be part of the elect, that 144,000 and 1/3, right? We want to be part of that. And we don't want to, because we understand the severity of the things to come. We understand the vileness of this world, and we understand that there's really nothing of importance of this world when you consider the immortality, the power, and also the righteousness that is promised to us as a people. as far Emmanuel, as far as like after 1,000 years where all people look different, I would think so, because again it tells us that well, one, us Israelites, we're gonna be keeping the laws perfectly, which means what? Which means we're not gonna be sleeping with these other nations and having children with them, right? Because first of all, we're not gonna even have the same bodies as them, right? We're gonna be these 20-foot tall, 15, 20-foot tall, you know, God men upon the face of the earth, just like our women, right? And these other heathens are all going to be small little beings to us, right? So we're not going to have children with them, right? Now, that being said, I'm not sure if they're going to mix in with each other. I doubt it. They might, but you know, these other heathen nations, like the Bible says, right? There's no end to all the people upon the face of the earth. So I would believe that it's going to be the same thing in the kingdom, and in those 1,000 years, they're going to stick with each other. There may be mixtures amongst them, but for the most part, because everybody understands the law, everybody's more likely going to be sticking to their people. So again, these are one of those questions we really can't answer now on this side, but they're fun. You know, they're fun to think about, and you know, and to reason using the scriptures. So that being said, the Israelites ourselves, we're going to ultimately be amalgamated, and we're going to start to look more and more like each other, right? Like a singular race. Because one, when we get back those new bodies, right? These godlike bodies, right? Like it tells us in the Bible that we're going to receive when we go into heaven. They're not going to be like a bunch of different colors. We're all going to look like dark-skinned Israelites, right? Like so-called Negroes, right? We're going to have that dark complexion to us, right? And we're going to be marrying within each other, right? We're going to be, you know, we ain't going to be going to Moabites. We ain't going to be going to Elamites, because they're going to be little people, man. A good visualization for this is that movie, Gods of Egypt. Okay? In the movie Gods of Egypt, they show the Egyptian gods, which really they were just angels back in the day, but they show them as huge 15, 20-foot beings, and they show the Egyptian people like little tiny people that only come up to their waist. So just like the gods of Egypt didn't mix in with the servants, right, in that movie, us Israelites in the kingdom, we're not going to be mixing in with these other heathen nations, because again, first of all, one, physically it's going to be fucking weird, right? But second, and most importantly, it's because it's in our law that we don't give our children, our sons and our daughters onto those people and stuff. Okay, so that hopefully that answers your question. The brother Adam Nana brings out, or I'm sorry, the brother YAHAWAH, the Israelite, brings out Revelation 6:16, and said to the mountain and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb, for the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? Beautiful, exactly, man. See, because these Edomites, these rich heathens around the world, they see the chariots coming back. They've already spotted the Lord and the Armada on the way back, and they know that their number is cooked, right? And they don't think that they can stand in front of the Lord, right? And that's because they understand through the scriptures and through their soothsayers and their wise men who have read the Bible, they understand that they're the ones that are going to have to fight the Lord when they come back, right? Because they know that the Lord isn't coming back on their side. Now, us Israelites, on the other manner, you know, this is what we have to do, right, to stand in front of the Lord, to be righteous with them, right? Like in the parable of the wedding feast, right, where the Lord said, go out and gather all that you know that you bid to the marriage. All those people who are brought into the marriage, which ultimately is the election, right? Those people have to have a wedding garment on, and that wedding garment is this spiritual knowledge, right? The Holy Spirit that you get from understanding the knowledge of the Bible, right? By building up this knowledge of the scriptures, of the laws, and hence not only just knowing the laws, but also just keeping the laws, you're building up your righteous garment, which means you're going to be able to stand in front of the Lord and in that day. Because why? Because you've obtained that garment of righteousness, and you're able to be in that wedding feast. Unlike the other Israelites who got into the wedding feast but without a garment, what happens to them? They get bound hand and foot, and they get kicked out. Okay, so yeah, it tells us that the Israelites, that we're going to have our planets, and we're going to basically have access to the universe, right? Hence the Messiah said, you know, I go to prepare a place for you, for, you know, it says, for in my Father's house there are many mansions, right? And those mansions scholars have likened those onto planets. So as far as, will we have millions of planets? Maybe. But again, these are some of those, like some of those questions that we won't be able to answer now. But one thing is to understand, to take from that is not that will we get millions of planets to be our own, but it's to understand that we will have now access to the universe. We're going to have access to the tree of life, and who knows, in that tree of life, it might not even be planets. It may be something totally different. And this thing that we understand as the universe may be simply just an incubator keeping us from the whole true universe that's out there, that's waiting for us. Now, what is out there? It may not even be millions of planets, maybe thousands of planets, right? And they may all have their way of running, right? But the point being is that we are going to be introduced to that. We're going to be allowed and permitted to access that, where, for example, the other heathen nations that are here upon the face of the earth, they will not be able to witness that. They're not going to be able to go into space. Their bodies would fucking shrivel up and radiate away, right? They're not made for that. Okay, see, that's the what we should be understanding from that. So again, like I said, it's fun to think about things like that, but again, don't get too caught up in the minutia of a question just because of the deepness of it, right? Understand the ultimately what the crux of that question really is, right? Not that, will we have a million planets, but understand that we will have access to that area which we understand as the universe. That will now become a new place for us to be able to access. The brother Carlos Maldonado brings out Joel 2:21. Fear not, O land of Yahawah. Fear not, O land, for Yahawah will do great things. Isaiah 29:13. Yahawah will do marvelous things and wonders. Exactly, man. See, because like I said again, we understand right now that that all these things, we understand that the Lord is going to do a lot of amazing things. But once we actually get into the kingdom, once we get these new bodies, just the amount of understanding from us having the ability to understand in the higher dimensions, higher than the third dimensions, it's more than what we can fathom. In fact, let me get this real quick, because what is this? There's a scripture. Second Ezra 5:40. The second Ezra 5:40. Then said he unto me, like as thou canst do none of these things that I have spoken of, even so canst thou not find out my judgment, or in the end the love that I have promised unto my people. So you see, in this case here, the angel Uriel was telling Ezra, he had given him basically some these amazingly deep questions, right? About, like, how many hearts, or how big is the ocean, what's the weight of a flame, recall for me the day that has passed. All these things are things that we can't even understand in our reality, right? In our third dimensional plane that we exist upon, right? Now we can do some of these things, which is why those questions, when you break it down, were really just kind of like a time, like we weren't even ready to answer those questions, right? Like, for example, like we now understand how to weight a flame, how to find out the weight of a flame, right? Because we are now living in those times where we're ready, for those answers, right? Well, that being said, just like the angel told Uriel here, we can't comprehend those things which are promised onto us because they're so far out of our sight. And the closest thing that I could consider, Akim, or I could compare to this, is when you have a dream, and you wake up and this dream is freaking amazing, and you're having all these events, and it's like heaven that you're experiencing, right? And then you wake up and then you have this, you're having this recollection, and it's amazing, and unless you write it down, it slowly starts to fade away, and you could try the best, even just in the moment, you could be continually trying to think of it, and then it just fades away. That's because your dreams, just like in the spiritual world, those are in the higher dimensions. And when you come back down here to the third dimension, that understanding, that those notions, they escape us, because one, it's not meant for us, right? It's like trying to teach an ant, you know, complex algebra. He ain't gonna be able to understand it, nor even comprehend, you know, who we are as beings. This little ant sees is a big glob of fuzziness in front of him, and once in a while he'll see like a finger come in, which he thinks is a mountain, an upside down mountain coming down and crushing his fellow friends or his family and stuff like that, right? See, we cannot comprehend the vastness and the amazingness of the Lord and everything that is waiting for us, right? But we understand that there is, but one thing that the Lord has done for us in showing us these amazing sci-fi movies and these crazily deep, you know, videos we could see online, that He has showed us things that we could grasp at and understand that there's something far greater waiting for us. But again, before we get to that, before we see that stuff, before we get to experience it, we have to go through that narrow passage, that small river that leads to the broad sea. So that being said, let's go ahead and continue. And this is the last one. This is Isaiah. Let's get back in Isaiah chapter 8, or I'm sorry, 47 and 8. It says, "Therefore, hear now this, thou art given to pleasures that dwellest carelessly, and sayeth in thine heart, I am and none else besides me. I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of children. But these two things shall come to thee in a moment, in one day, the loss of children and widowhood, they shall come upon thee in their perfection, for the multitude of thy sorceries, for the great abundance of thine enchantments. For thou hast trusted in thy wickedness, thou hast said, none seeth me. Thy wisdom and thy knowledge, it has perverted thee. And thou hast said in thine heart, I am, and none else besides me. Therefore shall evil come upon thee, thou shalt not know from whence it riseth, and mischief shall fall upon thee, and shall not be able to put it off. And desolation shall come up on thee suddenly, which thou shalt not know. Stand now with thine enchantments, and with the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth. If so, be thou shalt be able to profit. If so, be thou made prevail. Thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, the monthly prognosticators stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee. Behold, they shall be as stubble, the fire shall burn them, they shall not deliver themselves from the power of the flame. There shall not be a coal to warm at, nor fire to sit before it. Thus shall they be unto thee with whom thou hast labored, even thy merchants from thy youth. They shall wander every one to his quarters, none shall save thee." And that ultimately is the end of these Edomites and their wicked kingdom. And it doesn't matter how much they try to coerce us to use their system to get involved and take the mark of the beast. The end is coming, and the end does not fall good for these Edomites, which are the Caucasian and Israeli race that are currently orchestrating right now schemes to continue to hold power upon all the earth and to enslave the people, namely you Negro, Latinos, and Native Americans, you Israelites, into perpetual servitude. But again, that is not going to work out. Like it tells you here, their schemes are going to all come to naught, and it's all going to be burnt up in stubble. So for our people who think that they're going to be able to hide in the cut or get along with these Edomites or find a little niche here or take the mark of the beast because they got to eat, you're going to be burnt up and like stubble along with these Edomites with them, man. And because nobody's going to be able to save them or those Israelites that join on to them. Okay, so again, hopefully this video is edifying, Akim. Hopefully we're able to go into the legislature and all these schemes that these Edomites are and also these other nations are pushing forward in the background while they're distracting everybody on wars and rumors of wars, right? But understand that, you know, with us being the watchers that the Lord has set up, we're here to warn our people to keep an eye out and to notice that these things are being pushed forward, because again, we're not going to be taken by surprise by them, right? We're going to understand what we got to do. That being, we're gonna be good with the Lord. We got to make sure to do His will and to obey Him, so that way the Lord can then watch out for us and build up that spiritual hedge around us to protect us in these evil times and this Jacob's trouble, which we are starting to go into now. So that being said, Akim, let's go and give all honor and glory to Yahawah, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, BAHASHAM, QADASH, Barakatah Yahawah, Barakatah Yahawashai, Barakatah Yahawah, Barakatah Yahawashai, Barakatah Yahawah, Barakatah Yahawashai, BAHASHAM, QADASH. Tawada, Akim, for joining today. Hopefully this video was edifying. I'll see you, Akim, here next week, Lord willing. If not, I'll see you throughout the week through my lessons. If you have any questions, please put them down in the comment board. And all you brothers, Yahawah Shem Yashai, brak a thumb to you. Be safe and be diligent. Watch out for these devils. I'll catch you next week. Shalom.